Hi and welcome. My name is Kelechi and I'm going to be your instructor in this short course to solve the Turing.com coding challenge practice test problem 1 and 2 using C# programming language. In this course, you'll get a brief overview of the Turing.com vetting process and my solution in solving the practice test problem 1 and 2 of the coding challenge using the C# programming language. If you're not aware of C#, C# is a powerful and versatile language. So if you're looking to take the coding challenge of the Turing platform using C#, solving the practice test which we're going to do in this course would be a great help. This lecture is not a beginner's course. Some experience using C# is required. However, we would soon be releasing our full C# course, which will take you from beginner to expert levels. So once again, my name is Kelechi and I'm a software developer with over a decade of experience developing and teaching software development. Let me know in the comment section how this course has helped you, or if you have any questions, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. So without wasting any of your time, let's get right into it. Welcome to chapter 1, in which we are going to talk about the vetting process. By the end of this chapter, we would have successfully learned about the Turing.com vetting process, and we would have set up our IDE for solving the challenges. So if you're ready, as I am, let's get right into it. First, let's go over to the Turing website at Turing.com to begin. So who is Turing? Well, according to their website, Turing.com is a fully remote company of 600 plus people who help connect world-class remote software engineers with world-class companies. So if you're a developer and you're looking to land a remote gig in the US, Turing.com might just be the place for you. If this is your first time on the website, begin by clicking on the Apply as a Developer link. Then click Apply Now. This should bring up a programming question for you to solve. After you solve it, it should take you to the page to create an account. Create your account if it is your first time here and log in. I'm already registered on the site, so I'll be logging in with my details. So to land a remote gig, Turing.com has a 5-step process as of the time of this recording. The first is to take a work experience survey, then you take the Turing test, then you pass a live coding challenge, you finalize your resume, and you begin receiving job offers. After completing the work experience survey, you'll be taken to a section to take the Turing test. Choose your tech stack to commence. You will then be given a set of timed questions on your tech stack. You will need to pass your tech stack before proceeding to the coding challenge section. My tech stack was C# and I passed. This tutorial does not cover passing the tech stack section. So once you have completed and passed the tech stack session, the coding challenge section would be unlocked. Before taking the challenge, it is strongly encouraged that you try the practice tests. In this course, I am going to share my solutions to the 2 practice questions to help you take the test. So click on the Try the Practice Test to begin. On the top, select problem 1 and set your programming language to C#. Before we begin solving the problem, let us first set up our development environment. See you in the next section. Welcome to this session where we are going to set up our development environment. For this course, Visual Studio 2019 for Mac is the IDE of choice. This is a free IDE from Microsoft for writing and maintaining C# code. If you're on a PC, I recommend that you use Visual Studio Community Edition for free. or other paid versions if you are ready to take that step. Let's begin by clicking on the New button to set up a console application which we will use to solve our challenges. I'm going to choose Console Application and click Next. For the project, I will enter cal points based on the challenge and click Create to create the project. Now that our project is created, I'm going to replicate problem 1 from the Turin website to my project. I already have it typed out, so I will just copy and paste. Okay, so now that we have an overview of the vetting process and have set up our IDE, let's get started solving the first challenge. And don't forget, if you have any comments or challenges as this course progresses, do well to drop them in the comment section. See you soon. Before we begin our solution, a clear understanding of the two classes present in our solution is necessary. The first class is a class called Solution. This is where you code your solution to the problem. For the first problem, the Solution class contains a method calPoints, which takes an array of strings as arguments and has a return type of int. We will write code in this method to work on the array of strings passed in as a parameter and return an integer as an output. Next, let's talk about the class calPoints. Please, under no circumstance should you edit the contents of this class. The purpose of this class is to run the code you created in the method calPoints against various test conditions. The main class first creates an instance of the solutions class. It then stores the input from the console using the console.readLine method into an array of strings called ops. This array of strings is then passed as an argument into the calPoints method that was created in the solution class earlier. Whatever code we write in the calPoints method works on the array of strings and returns an output of type int, which is stored in the output variable. The code you write needs to pass all the test conditions to succeed. Once again, do not alter the code in this class. Alright, so in the next section, we're going to talk about and understand the requirements of problem 1. See you soon. Hi and welcome back. For now, let's go back to the Turin.com website and go through the problem as we begin to plan our solution. Our first problem is about a baseball game with strange rules, and it reads: you are keeping score for a baseball game with strange rules. The game consists of several rounds, where the scores of past rounds may affect future round scores. At the beginning of the game, you start with an empty record. You are given a list of strings ops, where ops at I is the ith operation you must apply to the record and is one of the following. From these two paragraphs, we understand that when a new item is added to the list of items, something happens to the other items already in the list. Let's keep reading. So the ith operation can be 1, an integer x, and if this is the case, record a new score of x. It can also be plus, and if this is the case, record a new score that is the sum of the previous two scores. It is guaranteed that there will always be two previous scores. It can also be D, which is the third condition. And if this is the case, record a new score that is double the previous score. It is guaranteed that there will always be a previous score. The ith item operation can also be C. And if this is the case, invalidate the previous score, removing it from the record. It is guaranteed that there will always be a previous score. Return the sum of all the scores on the record. So for condition 1, if an integer, for instance, maybe 3 or 4, is added to the list, nothing happens to the other items that are already in the list. For condition 2, if a plus sign is added to the list, add a new record that is the sum of the previous two integers. So if I have 3 and 4 in the list already, and a plus sign is the next item in the list, we would add 7 to the list because 3 plus 4 is equal to 7. For condition 3, if the letter D is added to the list, add a new record that is double the last record. So if 5 was the last item in the list and D is the next item, then we add 10 to the list because 5 times 2 is 10. And for the fourth condition, if C is added, remove the last record. Finally, sum all the items in the list. So now let's look at their examples before we begin creating our solutions. In example 1, we have an array of strings in a variable called ops. And in this array, we have 5, 2, C, D, and plus. And it tells us that the output is 30. So let's see how we came about that. 5 is the first in the list. So what do? We add 5 to the record. The record now has 5 in the list of strings. 2 is the next item. So because it's an integer and according to condition 1, we add 2 to the record. So now the record has 5 and 2. The next item in the list is C. And C, according to the fourth condition, tells us to invalidate the last record. So we're going to remove 2 from the record, which is the last. And now the record is just 5. Next we have D. And D says that we should multiply the last item in the record by 2. So since we have only 5 in the record, we're going to multiply it by 2, and this gives us 10. So we now have in the record 5 and 10. Next we have a plus sign, and the plus sign says you add the last 2 items. That's the condition. So we have 5 and 10 in our list. Because we have the plus sign, we're going to add both of them to give us 15. So the record now has 5, 10, and 15. So we now sum all the items in our list, and that gives us 5 plus 10 plus 15, and that gives us 30. Simple, right? All right, let's look at the second example, which is a little bit longer. So we have 5 minus 2, 4, C, D, 9, plus, plus. And it follows the same pattern. When we have integers, we add them, which is 5 minus 2 and 4. When we have C, we remove the last item for the record, which would be 4. So we just have 5 and minus 2 left. Next, we have D, and D tells us to multiply the last item by 2. So we are going to multiply minus 2 by 2, and that gives us minus 5. So the record is now 5 minus 2 and minus 4. Next, we have 9. We do nothing. We just add it to the list. After 9, we have a first plus. And what does plus tells us? It tells us to add the last 2 items in the list. So the last 2 items were minus 4 and 9. And if we add them, that gives us 5. So our list now becomes 5, minus 2, minus 4, 9, and 5. And we have another plus, which tells us to still do the same thing, which is to add the last 2 items we have in the list. And the last 2 items we have are 9 and 5. So we add them together and it gives 14. So our record is now 5, minus 2, minus 4, 9, 5, and 14. Finally, we sum everything we have in our list, and this gives us 27. The final example is pretty self-explanatory. So now that we've gone through the examples and we see what this problem is all about, in the next section, we are going to begin coming up with our solution so that we can meet and achieve every test condition and pass them. So see you soon. Okay, welcome back. In this section, we are going to begin creating our solution. To begin our solution, we would first need a list of strings to hold all our computed values and a variable to hold the summation of the list of values. Let's define these. First of all, we'll create a variable called opslist, and it's going to be a new list of strings. And next, we'll create a variable called value, and we'll initialize it to the value of 0. Also, we need to return the variable value. Next, we need to loop through the list of strings passed as an argument to determine if it was an int or a plus or a d or a c. That is the next item. And we're going to use a for loop to achieve this. So let's define our for each loop right now. And we're going to call it each item in the ops list, we're going to define it as item. And then we'll go ahead coding our solution. So next we check if item is an int, a plus, a d, or a c. And we're going to use our if-else statements to loop through each of these conditions. Okay, so let's start in the else section. For the code to have gotten here, it means that a number was passed. First, we add the number to our ops list, which we defined earlier, and we'll use it by using the add method. So the oplist.add, and we add the item. Next, we loop through the ops list and sum all the values, and we're going to use a for each loop here. So for each val in ops list, val plus equals int.pass val. So remember that the values in the ops list are strings, so we need to cast them to integers before we can perform any summation on them. So let's go on. Now, what should we do when the next item is a plus? Remember, from the condition, if it is a plus, we add the last two integers. Let's get the last two integers, sum them together, and add the results to the ops list. Let's create a variable called index, and what we are going to do with index is the summation of the last two integers. So how are we going to get this? We're going to use the count property or the count method of the ops list. So if we do count -1, that will give us the last item, and if we do count -2, that will give us the last two items. So we pass them and convert them, we cast them to integers rather, and we add them and feed them into our index. So now that we have our index, we cast it back to a string and add it to the ops list. We then initialize our values to 0, and as usual, we use a for each to loop through the ops list and sum every value in it. Alright, so let's go forward. Now let's examine what we should do if it's a D. Remember, if it's a D, we double the last value and add the result to the list. So first of all, we need to get the last value in the list. We are still going to use the count method on the ops list to get the last value. If we do ops list.count -1, it gives us the last value, and we cast it to an integer and multiply it by 2 and save it in our index variable. Similarly, we add it to ops list, initialize value to 0, and loop through the ops list and sum every value that's in it. Simple. Let's go on. Now let's examine what should be done if it's a C. Remember, if it's a C, we remove the last item. And how do we do that? We use the remove at method on the ops list. So the same way, we get the last item by saying ops list.count -1, and that gives us the last item, and we remove it from the list. We initialize value back to 0, and we loop through the ops list once more and add all our values. And that's it. So now let's run the code against the first test condition to see if it passes. Remember, the first test condition is 52CD+. And similarly, we'll run it against the second test condition. So you can test it against other conditions. Just make sure that the conditions are within the constraints and everything should work out fine. Wow, you see, they worked. So see you in the next session. Wow, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching. We really hope this course has helped your understanding of what is required to solve the practice test. The source code for both problems 1 and 2 are found in the description below. And if you're still having any challenge, please let us know in the comments below. We'll be releasing a full C# course from beginners to mastery in the coming weeks, and we have a ton of great material and courses lined up to take you to the next level of your programming journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, take care. See you soon. Bye.